If you desire to increase the amount of money that you earn, you must learn to operate on a higher spiritual level. There are 4 levels of value, and in order to operate on a higher spiritual level, you must surpass 2 of the 4 levels of value in order to increase your earnings. Myron Golden. All right, y'all. So today we're going to talk about the 4 levels of value to uncover which level you're currently on and how we can get you to not just the higher spiritual level, but the highest level so that you can earn the highest amount of money. You see, it's really important to understand that you can only bring a certain amount of value to a position. Okay, so whatever job that you're currently working in is capped. It has a max capacity, right, to which you can get paid in that position. After that, you need to be promoted or you need to look for a higher paying job, right? So we're going to talk today about the 4 levels of value that Myron Golden mentions in his Boss Moves book to ensure that you're not just going for the promotions thinking that you're going to become wealthy, right? Or to think that you're going to become richer. Because technically, as long as you're employed and working for someone else, you will always have a cap on how much you can make unless you're in 2 of the 4 levels of value that Myron Golden mentions in this book. So we're going to start at the very first level, and then we're going to work our way up to the highest. Just know that the last 2 are the highest levels of value, which that's where we make the most money. So make sure that you stick around to ensure that you know which 2 in order to become wealthy, in order to become richer, in order to be abundant, prosperous, quote unquote, make bank. So the very first level of value that Myron Golden talks about in this book is going to be implementation. Now, in implementation, this is going to be your entry level job, okay? This is usually the people that work the hardest in any organization and they get paid the least. I want you to think about custodians, right? So the janitors, the maids in the hotel, even retail sales, right? If you're starting out the entry level position, typically you're making around minimum wage, if not maybe a little bit more than that if you're lucky, okay? These are also your waiters and your waitresses in the restaurant, right? They really depend on the tips. Why? Because their salary is really low and it's also capped at a certain amount. So no matter what, how long you've been working for this particular organization or company, and no matter how hard you work, right? No matter how many hours you put in, especially when they ask you to stay. Sometimes people get really excited about overtime, not knowing that overtime hours does not make you richer. As long as we're trading our time for money, we are not becoming wealthier, right? Wealthy people actually work so that they can buy back their time, okay? And have more money. This is your entry level jobs. You are at max capacity. There is a ceiling above you to how much money you can make. And so, in understanding this concept, think about where you are at your current job. Is there a salary cap? And don't get me wrong, some of us may be comfortable with the salary that we're making at our jobs. But I also want you to understand that if you have a wealthy mindset, wealth means that you are making more than enough to pass down for generations, right? So if you have children and you don't want your children to work really hard at a job, especially a job that they don't even like, because that happens very often. I was there, okay? We become wealthy so that we can buy back our time, so that we can make better choices and decisions about what to do with our money, so that we can become abundant and serve people at a higher level. The second level of value is going to be called unification. Now, on the level of unification, these are typically your positions that's managers and supervisors, or maybe they make commissions in their sales, and they can make high commissions in their sales. So something that I like to think about are maybe the jewelers at Rolex or car salesmen, right? They make commission off of the dollar of the sales per transaction. Now, this is definitely more money than the unification level, but there is still a ceiling and someone for you to report to in this level. Now, you might consider yourself rich in this level, but remember, if you want to become wealthy, wealthy is defined as having more than enough to actually pass down in your generation. So, if you want to actually have enough to put into a trust or even a will to where your children or your family members can go to school full time and not have to work, not even part time, like they can focus all of their studies in school or anything else, right? If we want to become wealthy, we're unlikely able to do that at even an implementation level. And that's even if we're making 80,000, 100,000, maybe even up to $200,000 a year. Now, once again, when we throw out numbers like these, especially if you're not currently making that amount of money, it sounds so much better, right? Because we have something to compare it to. If you're making $50,000 a year right now, or $60,000 a year right now, 80,000 sounds way better. 90, 100, even $200,000 sounds way better than 50,000 because it's more. So clearly, you know, because it's more and that sounds better, that there is a desire for abundance. There is a desire for prosperity, to have more than enough, not just for you, but for others as well. And so, unification is also a level that may not satisfy you if you're looking to become wealthy. I also want to mention that a lot of times, especially if you're not working on commission, is that you're also in charge of a team. And it's so interesting that I learned this along the way because I was climbing the corporate ladder as well and becoming a supervisor, becoming a manager, and now being in charge of managing a team. I actually found that as I was climbing the corporate ladder, I was becoming less and less satisfied because even though I was making more money, I was also working harder. And I had a lot of hard tasks, such as managing people, which I don't actually believe in managing people. I think we are in charge of ourselves and should be able to manage ourselves and hold ourselves accountable, and that we have coaches and mentors and good leadership. But we can't force people to get out of their bed and make it to work on time. So the process of having to do course of corrective actions and to fire people and then hire people and train people is like a hamster wheel. You just do that all over again, especially living in the city that I live in out in New York, okay? Like this is a hustle and grind mentality and kind of way of being and thinking out here, which I realize is not for me. Like, I actually rather buy back my time and not have to do any of the things that I don't like and do more of the things that I do like and get paid handsomely for that, which led me to more, wanting to know more, wanting to learn more, and how I can apply myself differently. And also this conversation around wealth. How do you actually build true wealth? How can I make enough that I'm not only satisfied and have more than enough, but I can also support my family's goals, right? And I can also go to the store and purchase things without having to worry about how much it is, or if inflation goes up, I don't have to worry about the price, right? Doesn't mean that I don't care, but not having to worry about it, right? Or it not being a limitation to what I want to do because I figured that it's too much money, meaning I don't have enough. And so that's why I'm so thankful for this book, because then it put me onto the 2 levels of value to which you actually start to generate wealth, abundance, more than enough. So we'll move on to the next level of value. The third level of value in which you actually start to generate wealth is going to be communication. And this makes so much sense because communication is a very unique tool to the human species, right? We are the only species on the planet that can communicate from thought. So this doesn't include parrots, y'all. Parrots mimic, okay? Humans are the only unique species on the planet that can take thought, articulate it into words, okay? Now, Myron Golden teaches biblical principles. That's how he built his business. And God said that life and death is in the power of the tongue, okay? Speech. And so we are able to speak a thing. And because we're able to speak a thing, we're able to take action. We are able to motivate and inspire others to take action. May it be to help us in our own endeavors or to help others in their endeavors, right? So think about it. The architect that needs the blueprint of their business and their building still needs to be able to communicate that, right, back to the owners, the construction workers, and everyone else that's a part of the process of bringing this building, this tangible thing to life. So we have to have the ability to communicate. And obviously, if it's not speech, then there's other ways of communication, but it's communication that is key in beginning to build wealth. The better that we are at communicating a thing, the more wealthier it can make us. So communication is important. Being able to speak to people is important, and being able to communicate effectively is important if you want to become wealthy. Okay, so we want to communicate, and really two great ways on working on communication is one, reading more, and two, speaking more. So think about ways in which you could put yourself in front of more people. And if that frightens you, let me just say that putting yourself on camera is actually a really great way to start this process, making content. And I know that even that can be scary for people. And if that is, you have a content coach right here. Go ahead and click the link down in this description down below. We could create a discovery call and we could talk about a strategy and a plan to get you to where you want to be. So communication is key. This is a non-negotiable. Communication is the third level of value to wealth. And finally, the fourth level of value to becoming wealthy is imagination. So it's so funny that we just talked about communication, because before we can speak a thing, we think a thing, okay? And it's really important to understand that we are also the only species on the planet that can use their intellect to create. There is no other species on the planet that can do that. We have the power of thoughts, which actually turns into creation. So remember that build into our business we were just talking about, right? Well, guess where the business idea originated? Ideas originate in the mind. It originates from thought. And so our imagination, the capability to actually see success in our minds first, and then communicate it and build around that idea, is the way to wealth. So we all have imaginations. Some people think that they lose their imagination after some time. And it's like, if that's true, there is a way to train your imagination, because there's ways to train the mind, right? Meditation, visualizations. And I know for a fact that even if you believe you can't imagine something, that you've imagined many of things, because the mind's job is to think. The mind's job is thinking all the time. This is not something that you have to force it to do. It just does. So your mind is constantly thinking about the past or the future. And either way, you're imagining that, okay? Because we're living in the present moment. So anytime you're in the past or in the future, you're in your imagination, okay? You're recreating circumstances that happened in the past, or you're creating circumstances that happen in the future. Now you just want to do that with intention. And you want to do that with intention to serve other people. Why? Because people pay you for your ideas. People pay you for your creations, which starts where? Here. So the only two levels of value that can actually create wealth is going to be communication and imagination. And when we merge the two together, forget about it. We've created this entire world and universe through thought and through communication. Even in the Bible, it says that God said, "Let there be light." Okay? Thought about the light, communicated the light, and then there was light. And so I also want to say that this is not about being religious. If you don't have a religion, it doesn't matter. Spiritual practices are not the same as religious practices. It can be, but they're not the same. Okay? Spirituality is creation. And so I also am a believer that biblical principles were meant to guide us and to help us navigate life. So it doesn't have anything to do about being Christian, Buddhist, Episcopalian, Baptist, none of it matters. It doesn't matter. Like, it's not connected to religion. It is connected to creation. Myron Golden says, wealth is spiritual. Hence, the two highest levels of value, communication and imagination, which are also spiritual, it will make sense that wealth would be spiritual too. These are two of the most powerful tools that we have as human beings. It causes us to create, and the effect can be wealth. can be abundance, prosperity, more than enoughness. And we help people by creating, and people help us by giving us money for the things that we create. There isn't a thing in the world that did not originate in thought, wasn't communicated, and then was created. Even the chair that you're sitting on as you're watching this, or the floor that you're standing on as you're watching this, originated in a mind and was communicated with others before it was placed beneath you. And either it was you or someone else, but somebody paid for it. And that payment went to the creator. And so I say all that to say, and I share this to say, that you need to get on a new level. We are meant to climb, go higher. That is the highest vibration. So it makes sense of why it's the highest levels of value. When we're low, when we're at rock bottom, when we're struggling, when we can't afford things, that's hard. And so why not make it easier for ourselves and for our family while we're at it, by continuing to climb the ladder, by continuing to learn more, by continuing to excel and apply the knowledge that we're learning into action. Because knowledge is only power when it's in action. It's not powerful when it just stays here. It's powerful when you communicate it to others. It's powerful when you and others are able to create from that source. This book has helped me so much, y'all, in ways that I didn't even imagine that it would help me. It's called Boss Moves Book, Business Optimization Success Strategies from $1 Million Roundtable. Myron Golden, who went from making $6 and change as a sanitation man from the trash man to the cash man, to now over 1 million subscribers on YouTube, several millions of dollars from using his communication and imagination. You know, he talks a lot about biblical principles, and it clearly is working for him. So there's no need to rewrite the tool, right? It's like the Bible has been around for a very long time, or any other book that you might have read before or heard about before, or that's equivalent to the Bible. This is not about the Bible versus the Quran or the Torah. This is not about that, okay? It's about using historical principles that has built civilization to where it is right now, and leveraging it for yourself, for your family. That's what this conversation is about. So I hope that's clear and understood. This is the shortest read, and it's packed with so much knowledge and just amazing, helpful concepts. It's less than 200 pages, this paperback, and as you can see, I've read this thing 4 times already. And so I'm happy to share the principles here with you on this channel. But if you are ready to secure your own copy and to read along with me, then I want you to hit the link down in the description box below. I have my affiliate code there, and I want you to purchase your copy so that as we have this conversation, it can also ring true for you. And we don't need to read a bunch of books. We need to read one good book or a few over and over again, because knowledge is power in action. So we need to understand the thing that we're reading, and then we need to apply the thing that we're reading. And I would love to continue this journey with others, the community that loves to apply the knowledge that they have and that they continue to learn in community. I believe that we go faster and further together. I dropped the gems for y'all today. Let me know which ones you picked up. So leave a comment down below. Be sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell so that you know when I drop my next content. And I'll see you on the next one. Peace.